Hi, this is Paul Sanneman with business success tips and how to make more money in less time and have more fun. And today I have as my guest Randy Goruk. I hope I got your name, Randy, right? And he's with Leaders Edge 360. Now, he teaches something that is very dear to my heart, which is leadership. So, can you tell me a little about yourself, Randy, and how do you do what you do, and why contractors should listen to you?
Sure. I've been involved in the industry since 1974. I currently have a leadership development company, which I started in 2003. But from 1974 through 2000, I worked with a company that, I started as an entry-level design technician. And I worked my way up in the organization to eventually become an officer of the company, an executive leading $750 million of $1 billion business.
Wow.
And,
What do they build?
well, we were in the engineered wood products business.
Okay.
We provided products to general contractors, framers, retail lumber yards, wholesale distributors. It all depends on the product and the time through that 26-year period I was with the company.
Wow. So why didn't you just retire and just quit and just kick back?
Well, I don't golf and I don't have any grandchildren and I live in the desert, so I don't have a lot of fishing opportunities.
I see. Well, those are good reasons.
Yeah, those would be the only reasons I might retire. Plus, I love doing what I do. I mean, I love helping other leaders who want to be successful succeed. And I like to do that by sharing my experiences with them so that they can pick up a nugget or two and become more effective at what they do.
Okay, so my first question for you, Randy, is a lot of contractors are craftsmen, right? They're good at their trade. They're framers, they're, pick one. They're good at their trade. And they decide they're going to start a company, right? And they have to be changed, right? They have to move in another dimension. They have to become a leader. So how do you transition from being a craftsman into being a leader?
Yeah, it's a very difficult transition, but many people have done it successfully. What I like to do is I like to help challenge them and educate them on how to do that. And I encourage a mindset of continuous learning, self-reflection, thinking, and adaptability. And the adaptability part is the one that a lot of people have trouble with because they know how to do it. They know how to do the craftsman work that you talk about, but they don't know how to maybe teach others how to do it. I spoke at a roofing conference some time ago, and we're talking about developing your crews and developing your team. And a fellow said to me, "Well, Randy, just a minute. I find it to be easier, faster if I just do things myself." So I said, "Well, what are we talking about exactly?" And he told me, and I said, "Well, look, how old are you?" He said, "I'm 35. I said, "Well, do you want to be doing that when you're 60? And he said, "Well, heck no." I said, "Well, the problem isn't that the people that you have on your team aren't capable. The challenge we have is helping you become better at helping them. And you have to learn how to do that so that you can transition from being able to do it to being able to lead the business and teach others how to do it." And that's difficult.
So Randy, what makes a good leader? Because I'm not sure how you define that. Let's take somebody who, the typical thing, a guy goes from, being a carpenter and he's starting a construction company. He's been maybe at $1 million. And he just says, well, I can't get people to do what I want them to do. I can't find any good people. I just can't, no matter what I do, they're not as good as me. And I'm having a really hard time. I'm working way harder, making way less. It's totally a pain in the butt. And what is this whole leadership thing? What's the difference between a leader and a craftsman? And how do I become a leader?
Well, a craftsman is something that you do all by yourself. You finish a project. You start a project, you finish a project. And that's you. That's about you. When you're dealing with the topic of leadership, it's about others. It's getting other people to do what it is that you do or what it is that you want them to do. So you have to guide them, lead them, inspire them, listen to them, develop them. You're like the coach. Think of a football team. Pick your favorite team. The coach might have been a good player one day, and he became the coach, and he was able to grow the team, have the team be successful. But there's a lot of coaches that have been unsuccessful because they haven't made the transition from player to coach. So leading a group of people versus just being a craftsman, that's the primary difference as I see it.
So how do you learn to lead? I mean, most people, I would say clients I've had, they come in, now they're the owner of their business, they've got 2 or 3 employees. Their definition of leadership is, what is it? Just do what I tell you to do. There's a joke about that. I mean, like, what is it? People are rowing a boat and say beatings will continue until morale improves, right? So,
right.
How do you just telling people what to do and expecting them to do it? I don't think is leadership, is it?
No, telling people what to do is not leadership at all. In fact, it's not even coaching. But I think what you can do is you can collaborate with your team by being a good listener, seeking their ideas to solve a problem, getting their input in creating a solution for a situation, trying to figure out what they can contribute to the company by saying, how can we make more money? What are your ideas, your thoughts? And if you have a small operation, 2, 3 people on your team, that's easy to do. You just hang out and listen. And you can challenge them with asking them great questions. Well, if this was your company, what's 1 or 2 things that you would do for us to become a better company, be more profitable, get through our projects quicker? Depending on the person, if you can develop the art of asking great questions as the leader, then you're going to become a better leader as long as you listen to the responses to what people have got to say and act on it. And there's going to be some things you can't act on, and you have to acknowledge that. But if you can ask great questions of people, get them to think other than this is just a job.
So there's a couple of good questions. So be specific. I like that. What if this was your company? What are some specific questions, Randy, that our listeners, if they're leading companies, can ask their employees that you think would help them become a better leader and do a better job?
All right. Sometimes we'll ask questions like this. Hey, Randy, how's the XYZ project going? Yeah, it's going good. It's fine. It's cool. But if you ask the question a little bit differently, Randy, what are the 3 things that could prevent this XYZ project from being completed on time? Well, that's going to cause Randy to think, and Randy's going to say, well, there's 1, 2, and 3. And then you would follow up with more questions by saying, well, tell me, 1 surprises me a little bit, but what's your single biggest concern about 1? And then you engage with them in conversation about problem number 1. And then you create an action item for problem number 1 by saying, okay, we'll tell you, what's 1 thing I can do that would make a difference in making problem 1 go away? And you collaborate, you come up with a solution. Then you go to the next problem area, problem number 2 and 3, and you repeat. You could also look at, instead of saying, well, how were the financial results, or how much money did we make? Maybe we could ask a better question. If we had the month to do over again, what's 1 thing we could have done differently to make more money? And then you reflect on it. So when I talk about, what do? I try to help people learn about the importance of continuous learning, how to reflect on their business and their leadership so that things can get better, and think about things that they could actually do that would make a difference in growing their business profitably.
Okay. So those are 3 good questions. Next question, what can a person do? Well, what book should they read? What podcast should they listen to other than this one? So that would get them to be better leaders. Are there books on leadership that you prefer over others? Are the ones that are some of these are rather esoteric and I can't get contractors to read them. So do you have any suggestions on what books they should read or things they can listen to make them better leaders?
Yeah, there's a ton of information out there, but you have to step back once and you have to say, what is it that we're trying to get better at? Is it a listening skill? Is it delegation? Is it empowering people? What are we trying to do? Become more personally productive? Because all of those are important things for leaders to do. But to get one book that one size fits all, it's not practical. So I would say identify the opportunities for you to get better and then focus on that topic with a podcast, with a book, with a subject matter expert that could help you get better in that area. And that may mean there's a coach that can help you focus on it. It might be a mentor, and it might be, as you point out, a book or podcast or video.
Right.
So the subject matter is the most important. What do you want to get better at?
So I like those ideas. So what are the kinds of subject matter? If you have like, okay, these are, you're going to advise 4 areas. These are the 4 areas that need to work on. And go over those again, because I think those are interesting. Like, what were those areas again? That was great.
Well, I guess I don't remember exactly what I said, so you can't quote me. But I think that common ones in our industry, in the construction industry, are how to get your crew to work together, how to have a good team, how to get a high performance team.
Right.
And one thing that a skill that a leader can develop is the team building skill. Okay. And that could be an area of focus. Another one I think is all about communication. You know, how do you communicate more effectively so that people do what it is that you expect them to do? So setting expectations, holding people accountable, giving them feedback. And if you're not very good at holding people accountable, instead of holding someone accountable, or there's a couple different ways. You can be overbearing, or you can be firm and authoritative. And I prefer being firm and authoritative, but not necessarily overbearing. So when you're holding people accountable, you want them to learn from the mistake that maybe they made, or the action they didn't take, or whatever had happened. You can hold people accountable, but there's a process you go through to make that person not feel bad about, okay, I really blew it, I'm a dumbass, they're going to fire me. You don't want any of that. What you want to do is develop your people. And there's a skill involved in developing people without question.
Okay. So I know one of the things I suggest is a lot of people dictate goals as opposed to get the employee to buy into those. Like, when do you think you can have this, bedroom frame by Thursday versus you will get it framed by Thursday?
Yeah, I think that's when it comes to delegation of a task, like getting a room framed by Thursday. If you tell people to do it, well, just remember that's your goal, not their goal. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what's going on with them that may interfere with achieving that goal for Thursday. But if you ask, when will you get this framed up? And they say, well, I'll have it done by the end of the day, Friday. Then you go back to the art of asking great questions. And that is, you ask a question like, what's one thing I can do to help to make sure this gets done by the end of the day, Thursday? What tools do you need? What resources do you need to have this done by Thursday? What has to happen for us to get this done by Thursday? And you say, well, I'll miss my kid's baseball game, or I will, my wife's about to have a baby. I don't know what the situation would be, but you have to not dictate the Thursday date. You have to collaborate with them to agree on it so that it becomes their goal, which then you can help them achieve it and also hold them accountable, celebrate success for achieving it.
Okay. So give me an example of you have to give the person's name, but of somebody who you coached in leadership and it's produced results.
I don't know if I can give you any names. In fact, I know I can't, because most of my coaching clients are confidential.
Right.
But I can tell you that there are people who I have coached that are now CEOs of billion-dollar companies. And I'm talking about guys like Randy, entry level at one point in their career. I'm talking about a lab technician breaking pieces of wood in a lab, now being a senior executive in another company. I've got many, many stories like that. And it's not because I'm so great. It's because they had the potential, they had the desire, and all I did is help them pave the way.
So what did you actually do for them? You had one-on-one coaching. What did you the guy that went from breaking, breaking pieces of
wood in the lab
to becoming, the CEO of a, almost $1 billion company. What did you tell him? What was the advice you gave him? How did you, coach him? How did you make that happen with that guy?
Yeah. Well, let me go back and make sure that I correct you. He's not a CEO, but he is a senior executive with a company.
Okay. Right. Well, he's way higher than he would have been without you. So that's the one I know.
Yeah, I looked out for him for sure. But he had, again, the potential. So first of all, again, continuous learning. How do you go from where you are to where you want to be in small steps? So we need to improve my presentation skills. We need to improve my ability to ask better questions. So you do that through practicing. I do a lot of role playing. I do a lot of situational learning. So you take somebody on a job site who's not performing very well. Well, what do? You can yell at them. You can say, well, you're a mediocre performer, pick it up or I'll get rid of you. Well, that's not helping them. So I teach coaching skills on how then to inspire that person to take them from a mediocre performer to a stellar performer. And you do that by employing certain coaching skills. So as a coach, I teach the skills that help people become better coaches themselves.
So let's get a little closer to defining those skills. I've got, a client and he has 4 employees. There's always a worst employee, right? And he says, I keep telling this guy what to do. He doesn't work. I try to work with him. He gets upset with me. Obviously, I don't know how to get through this guy because I don't want to fire him because he's a skilled craftsman. At the same time, he's always complaining. He's always saying, I'm giving him too much pressure. I'm trying. I'm just not succeeding here. So I want you to coach me on how I can help this guy succeed as opposed to fire him.
Sounds to me like you've been doing a lot of telling. I tell him to do this. I tell him to do that. He doesn't deliver. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Well, I've told him 17 times that this is the way he needs to lay out the cabinets. He just doesn't get it. He keeps laying them out wrong and costing us both a lot of money.
Well, sometimes when you have a round peg in a square hole, that can happen too. So you got to be careful of that. Well, I think then when you set an expectation for somebody, usually say laying out cabinets a certain way and they don't do it for you. And then you ask them to do it again and they still don't do it for you. Sometimes it's the way that we set the expectation. They stop listening. Retired CEO friend of mine, he came up with the phrase, well, Randy, listening is not having a conversation in your head while the other person is talking. So what happens sometimes when you're giving somebody some directions on some expectation for them to deliver on, they're not listening. They stop listening about the way to do it because they're thinking about what does it impact them at home? What do they really have the skills to do what you're asking them to do? They start having a conversation in your head.
Right. They're wondering, am I going to get fired? Or do I need to look for another job? Right. This guy.
So they're thinking of something else. So the way you combat is, okay, so Randy, walk me through your understanding of what I'm looking for. See, there's a great question. Walk me through your understanding of what I'm looking for. And if Randy can't walk me through the way I want those cabinets laid up, then I know he doesn't understand and is not likely to perform very well for me. So we go through it again. So it's making sure that you're having an engaging conversation with the person versus firing off directives. They have to understand things. And, it reminds me of probably one of my favorite stories I tell people about. It similar falls into what we're talking about. Right. I was at my uncle's 1-year memorial service, and the priest was told a story. So it's his story, not mine, but I like to repeat it. And he went to a job site and he he wasn't sure what they were building there. So he saw somebody who was putting bricks in a wheelbarrow. And he said to the kid that doing that, he said, so what are you all building here? And he's, I don't know. He said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I take these bricks, I put them in the wheelbarrow, I go over there about 100 yards, and I give them to Bobby. So the priest goes over to Bobby and said, tell me, what are you building here? He says, I don't know. I'm just mixing up this mortar, and I give it to Jason over here, who's laying the bricks. Jason, I see you're laying the bricks. You're doing a pretty nice job. What are you building? He goes, Randy, or whatever the guy's name was. I'm building a hospital. I'm building a hospital for children so that someday when your kids get sick or your grandchildren get sick, your nephews and nieces get sick, they have a place to go. And the whole moral of the story is all about a purpose. What's the purpose? And if you could get your employees to understand what the purpose is of what you're doing, why do we have to do these 17 cabinets or this layout the way you're expecting it? Why is it? Why do I do that? What's the purpose of it?
Right. Well, it reminds me of another story, Randy, was I guess it's a myth, but there was, several people working on a pyramid, right? And the first guy was having a bad day. What are you doing? Well, I'm, hammering these bricks and I'm working hard. He was just upset with this whole thing, right? Next guy said, well, what are you doing? Looks like he was doing the same thing. He goes, no, I'm a skilled craftsman and I'm performing my craft and I'm, doing a great job. And I'm a skilled craftsman. I love what I do. I went to the third guy and said, what are you doing? He said, I'm building a monument to God. So, they're all doing the same thing, right?
Right.
Obviously different perspectives.
But our job as leaders then is to make sure that our employees understand the perspective that we have and that we are in fact running a profitable business, but at the same time we're doing things for clients so that the end user has a favorable outcome.
Right. So if you can convey to your employees sort of the mission of the company, it might be to do a great job, give good housing to people or give them a great space to live in. I mean, because people are going to work a lot harder for purpose, obviously, than they are for just a paycheck.
Most of them will. Some will still not. Some will not.
Right.
It's still about them versus, the higher.
Well,
purpose.
it reminds me, I was in a couple of MLMs, I don't have to name them, but I would see people that would go to work every day and not like their job. And every night they'd give meetings, right? They give meetings 7 nights a week. They'd stay away from their family. They do everything because the guy, whoever was the top of this, MLM, would inspire them to, they were going to change their life by giving these meetings. And they never got paid for them. It's like, it was amazing. Some very small percentage actually made it, but lots of people were giving the meetings because when they gave the meetings, they felt they were going to help their family and make a huge difference in the life and all that kind of stuff. And what amazed me is they could motivate thousands of people to give 6 meetings a week. And most people their employer couldn't motivate them to show up a job at 8 o'clock, right? So obviously the guy doing the other thing was a great leader and their job boss probably wasn't. So I think, Randy, the idea of leadership is what allows you to build a great team, right?
It does.
And construction is all about building a great team. So it seems like you're the kind of guy that could help our people listening to this podcast build a great team, which is going to make their job way easier. Because if you're trying to do everything yourself, it doesn't work. If you have a great team and they're working in unison, it's awesome. But a lot of guys don't know how to build a team. And I think your skills of leadership are really important for contractors to know because most of them have never actually studied leadership skills. They think that's just a soft thing. And I don't need to be a leader. I just tell them what to do. But they suffer the consequences of not having a great team, which looks like job overruns, not making any money, employees quitting, a lot of negative stuff happens. And it's because their leadership skills are lacking. And I don't think they can identify that. And I think they did a great job identifying, asking the right questions about what leadership skills are. So if people want to get in touch with you, Randy, to learn some of these skills, how do they do that?
Well, we do have a website. It's leadersedge360.com, leadersedge360.com. You can find my email address on that website. You can find other information about what we do. We have a variety of leadership assessments that we conduct. We also have online classes that we offer. We also do a lot of different sort of things that help larger companies. But for the smaller companies, just reach out to me on the website and let's have a conversation about what your challenges are, what your frustrations are, and I'd be happy to see if I can help you.
Is there
Additionally,
any charge for that initial consultation?
no, of course not. No. In fact, the other thing I want to mention is that every week, every Thursday, I provide a leadership tip to my following. And that leadership tip is usually 250 to 400 words, is relevant, it's realistic, and it's free. And I've been doing that for 12 years. So I have plenty of those available if you have a subject matter that you're stuck with. In fact, I have one today. Somebody said, how do you fire somebody without having a lawsuit against you?
That's a good question.
Well, it's a very challenging question. And the answer is, it depends. It depends on a lot of different factors. You know, why do you need to fire them? What state are you in? What's your documentation? How long have they been with you? Are you a union, non-union? There's so many different factors because you just have to explore all that. So that's what we're about to do.
That sounds great. Oh, and I'm also, this is an advice from my 13-year-old son. Don't forget to subscribe. I haven't done those in the business accepts. It goes, Dad, you got to tell him to subscribe. So, okay, listeners, subscribe. Push the button below and subscribe. Right. So that was my advice for my
you can find all places to subscribe on our website for my leadership tip. You're free. And I'm not selling anything. I also have a podcast. It's called the Leadership and Learning Podcast. If you're interested in learning about subject matter, you can go through the 100+ episodes we've got. Find a subject on how do you fix the weakest link, how to be a better listener. I interview a lot of special guests who have expertise on a variety of different things. Find out what do you need, and it's out there for you.
That's great. It's all free too. I mean, why not? It's a great idea.
It is. But the thing is, if you don't do it because you think you know it all, you just have to remember you don't know it all, and asking for help, getting help is not a crime.
No, I think most people don't even know what they don't know, which is a problem, right? So you got to check this stuff out. Well, I appreciate it, Gary. Thank you for being here, Randy. And please get in touch with Randy. I think he's got some great ideas, and I think contractors out there really need to learn to be leaders. And I think this is the man that can help you do it.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
All the best.